Well, Father's Day is just around the corner, and it reminds me of a story when we were in Northwest in St. Pete, where the preacher, Jim, had these rewards, these prizes that he would give to the person who had been a first-time father for the shortest amount of time. And we were kind of doing the calculations among the young adults, and we figured out with our first child that we were going to win the prize. And we're sitting there in church. He's about to get up, the preacher's about to get up and do his thing for Father's Day, when I notice this young couple comes in with a tiny, tiny baby. And they sit down in front of us, and wouldn't you know it, they won the prize. We never saw them ever again. Coincidentally, on Mother's Day, there was a lady who would win the longest time being a mother, and she would only show up on Mother's Day to win that award every single year. We affectionately referred to her as the ringer. Well, Father's Day has a little bit of a soapbox issue for me as a dad and as a minister, as a preacher. It's really kind of a conflicting Sunday because as a minister, you as a man are standing up talking about men, and it's very tempting to not honor the men, but to kind of criticize the men. And so there's a night and day stark difference between Mother's Day, where we just laud the women, we praise them, we just pile on the blessings and tell positive stories from the Bible about women, versus Father's Day, we kind of critique the men, get down on them, talk about how they need to be better spiritual leaders, more spiritually minded, etc. Well, here's the problem with that. The men who were there to hear that sermon, they showed up. Like, that might be right sermon, wrong crowd, right? Like, there are some men who need to hear that, but it's probably not the ones who actually showed up on Father's Day. Like, they'd probably more so have it together than others. And what we end up doing is the church becomes one more voice and an anti-men chorus on those Sundays when the men are just disparaged rather than built up. It is totally fine to encourage the men, bless them, just as we do the women. There shouldn't really be any difference between the two. And I think it has become even more culturally important in this moment in time for the church not to have an anti-masculine, anti-men sentiment. There are a lot of men out there who think that church is for women and for children. And maybe that's for a good reason. Like maybe the church has actually promoted that idea inadvertently without really understanding that that was what was going on. So we have this message of, Dad, get your junk together. Wow, Mom, you're amazing. No wonder men don't want to be a part of church. Now, again, why do preachers tend to do this? And I really believe it's because most preachers are men, and it can feel really weird in sermon preparation to feel like you're writing a sermon that's patting yourself on the back. So we have this real tendency to flip it around and talk about our shortcomings, talk about our flaws and failures, and highlight areas that we think that we need to be doing a better job at. I don't know if you noticed this, but in our world, there's a real anti-masculine, anti-men sentiment. And you look at what is going on in this world, and we do not really need to be down on men for being male. That's one of the last things we need to do. And if anything, the church should be part of the chorus of voices who is loving of all people, man, woman, child, etc., that if you come in these walls, you know that you belong, you're not going to get beat up. It doesn't mean there's not room for improvement. It's just Father's Day is not the day to do that. So if you're preparing a sermon and it's a critique of men on Father's Day, just turn all that around into blessing. Turn it all around into encouragement. Transform that sermon into a message of hope for the men who might just be getting beat up out there for being a man, because plenty of that goes on. There's plenty of guilting of the men these days. Don't let church be one more place where that happens. Men, be encouraged. Know that, hey, you're trying. God is still working through you. Don't be disparaged. Don't be frustrated just because the world says that men are problematic. You are not problematic just because you're a man. So that's my soapbox on Father's Day. Hope you have a wonderful Father's Day. God bless you men out there. Stand tall, stand firm. I would love, if you've appreciated this video, to hit a thumbs up, let YouTube know it's working. And if you haven't subscribed, now's the time. We're getting close to 5,000 subscribers. That just blows my mind. But anyway, we'll see you again soon. Take care.